Hey everyone, what's up? It's Babylonius from peakofserenity.com here with another video. Talk about some of the basics of Windwalker Monk. Today I'll be covering the talents, some of the what the choices are, what they do, and which ones you'll use in a general sense. So let's just dive right in. I've got my talent frame open here. And we'll start from the top and work our way down. First on the left is Eye of the Tiger in the level 15 row, the first tier. Eye of the Tiger is a passive ability that anytime you Tiger Palm a target, it puts this debuff on them. So if you see, I hit Tiger Palm, and it puts up Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger deals nature damage to them and heals you over 8 seconds. You can only have it on one target, but using Tiger Palm again will simply refresh it. Uh, so really, it's pretty simple to use. Nothing overly impressive. You press Tiger Palm, get a little bit more damage. Chi Wave is the next option. Once I get out of combat, Chi Wave is a 15-second cooldown. It's got a range. Basically, how it works is you press Chi Wave, and it tosses out this sphere that bounces back and forth. It deals damage to your target and bounces to a friendly. It will not, after the first bounce, you can't control it anymore. So if there's other targets around, it might bounce to them, whether they're friendly or ally, or yeah, friendly or enemy. It will always bounce 7 times, so that means it'll hit 8 targets, 4 friendly and 4 enemy targets. But again, once you cast it, you can't use it. Again, it's generally comparatively strong. In this tier, all of this tier accounts for a relatively small amount of damage. But this is one that's useful for situations where you might want to tag a target that's far away, right? You just toss it over. If you're in raids and you want it to bounce back and forth, that's also very useful. The drawback to Chi Wave is you can't control the targets that get healed or damaged after you cast it. So that's if you're in a situation with a lot of other targets where you want to focus damage on one target, or you have a lot of allies around you, and really you'd prefer to keep the healing to yourself. Chi Wave is not one that you can control that way. So last we have Chi Burst. Chi Burst is the AoE talent of that tier. It's a 30-second cooldown, and what it does is when you press it, it's got a small channel time, and it sends out a burst of Chi out in front of you. 40-yard range out in front of you. It deals damage to any enemies caught in the path, as well as heals any allies caught in its path. As a Windwalker, any time that Chi Burst deals or hits an enemy, it generates a Chi for you. So if you notice, right now I have 2 Chi, or my Chi will start to go down. But right now I have 1 Chi, so if I use Chi Burst, right, it's going to hit 2 targets, so I'm up to 3 Chi. It will give you only a maximum of 2 Chi per cast, but that's kind of something that gives it quite a bit more oomph compared to some of the other choices in the tier. So looking at these talents, generally you're going to focus and use Chi Burst on fights with multiple targets. Really, any time that there's additional targets, the additional Chi that you get every 30 seconds really pushes it over the top for any damage events and stuff like that, especially in AoE where you're going to be using Spinning Crane Kick a lot more often, and Spinning Crane Kick costs 2 Chi. Chi Burst will give you 2 Chi if you hit 2 targets, so it's very useful in that regard. Chi Wave is kind of the next most useful for single target. Generally the most damage for single target of the row, because it only hits one target at a time, and the damage is somewhat split. In that if you have 2 targets, it might hit one target 3 times and the other target once, or each of them twice, and so on. It might hit one target 0 times and the other target 4 times. So it's generally useful for single target situations. But again, you can't control it after that fact, and it is a small increase over the other 2 options. Eye of the Tiger is generally, the least used, or one that people are going to, be giving up a little bit more damage to have one less button to press. Windwalker has quite a few buttons, so you will often see people take Eye of the Tiger, so they have one less thing to worry about. Certainly, if you feel that your rotation is very full and you're having a hard time managing everything, switching to Eye of the Tiger can be very useful, as well as it makes sure that the healing comes back to you, so it provides slightly more self-healing than the other options. So again, Chi Burst for AoE generally Chi Wave for single target, Eye of the Tiger, just if your preference. Realistically, all three talents in this tier are close enough that you can choose which one you feel you enjoy the most, and go off your personal preference that way. So in the next row, the level 25 row, this is primarily a movement row. So starting from the left, we have Celerity, which reduces the cooldown of roll by 5 seconds. So it takes it from a 20-second recharge to a 15-second recharge, as you can see down here, and increases your maximum number of charges from 2 to 3, and useful that way. It's relatively self-explanatory in that regard. Chi Torpedo's next, and what it does is it turns your roll into a Chi Torpedo. Keeps the same cooldown, but the benefit of Chi Torpedo is it's slightly longer than roll is, as well as it puts this Chi Torpedo movement speed that increases your movement speed by 30% for 10 seconds, and it also allows you to stack it up. So Chi Torpedo is the one that gives you the most speed over a longer period of time. You can use Chi Torpedo, and you're just running, and then if you wait until right before the buff runs out, you can press it again, and now you have 2 stacks. So now you're moving at 60% increased movement speed instead of 30%. So again, that's one that if you have a long period of time where you're going to be running, or you're going to be, devoting, maybe up to 20 seconds or more of running time, Chi Wave is the one that's going to pull ahead in that regard, just due to its maximum movement speed and increase. Tiger's Lust is next, and Tiger's Lust is generally going to be the default for people in most situations. What it does is it puts a buff on a friendly target that increases their movement speed by 70% for 6 seconds, as well as removes any roots and snares. And the biggest use is that really it can be cast on other people. If somebody needs to get out of something or get to something, you can use Tiger's Lust on them to help give them a boost of speed. One of the other benefits to Tiger's Lust, and why it's generally the default, is that it gives you a third movement speed option. So in addition to your 2 charges of roll, 1 flying serpent kick, you also have Tiger's Lust. So it gives you a third option, and you have a little bit more control. Whereas roll is linear, Chi Torpedo is linear, flying sun kick is linear. Tiger's Lust increases your speed. You can move around, make turns, whatever you need to do during that time. For PvP, it's also going to be super useful. There's obviously a lot of roots and snares in PvP, so using Tiger's Lust is going to be incredibly useful in that regard. So again, Tiger's Lust is generally going to be the default. Chi Torpedo is most useful if for a long period of time. If you, for whatever reason, want to challenge somebody to a race, and they're stupid enough to accept a race from a Windwalker monk, Chi Torpedo is going to be the one that you're going to win with. A Windwalker monk with Chi Torpedo is just about the fastest moving spec in the game. I've not met a single other class that is capable of outpacing a Windwalker monk in that regard. Certainly, especially if you accompany it with a race that has additional movement speed, like goblins or anything like that, who can't be monks, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so Chi Torpedo is the long distance running. Celerity is all about sprints. If you have a situation where you just have to move a little bit but move more frequently, Serenity is going to be the biggest useful talent in that tier. But again, Tiger's Lust is going to be your default. It just allows the most flexibility, the most control compared to the other options. Level 30 tier is all about resources and resource management. So starting from the left, we have Ascension, which is a passive ability. And what it does is it increases your maximum chi by 1. So you go from a max of 5 to a max of 6, as well as increasing your maximum energy by 20. So you go from 100 to 120. Lastly, it increases your energy regen by 10%. So what it does is if your energy everybody's energy regens at a base percent a base of 10 energy per second, which is then modified by haste. So for example, right now my character has 9.24 haste. So that is multiplied by haste. So my character would generate 10.924 energy per second. Ascension works on top of that. So if you use Ascension, what it does is it just multiplies that number by 1.1. So if I have, if I have 10.9 energy per second. Multiply that again, I would have 11.8 energy per second. It would just add that 1.09. Well, I guess I would technically have 11.98 more specifically. So it just multiplies your energy regen by an increase of 10%. Fist of the White Tiger is the next choice, and it's going to be generally the default for most people. What it does is it costs 40 energy and generates 3 chi for you on a 30-second cooldown. It is slightly more efficient actually, it's significantly more efficient than Tiger Palm. Tiger Palm costs 50 energy for 2 chi. Fist of the White Tiger gives you 40 energy for 3 chi. And this competes with Expel Harm in terms of efficiency, because Expel Harm is 15 energy per 1 chi. So if you think Expel Harm is 15 energy per 1 chi, Fist of the White Tiger is slightly less than 15 energy per 1 chi, so it's more efficient. And then you have Tiger Palm, which is less efficient at 25 energy per 1 chi. The best thing about Fist of a White Tiger is it allows you to use it, and then you have 3 chi for Fist of Fury. So a lot of people really enjoy that connection between those two abilities. Tiger Palm gets you your Rising Sun kick. Fist of the White Tiger gets you Fist of Fury. Unfortunately, their cooldowns are different, but you get used to that pretty easily. And lastly is Energizing Elixir. Energizing Elixir technically provides the most chi and the most resources out of these options. However, it is the one that's going to be the most difficult to use. Because of the way that Windwalkers work with having 2 different resources, Energizing Elixir on a 1-minute cooldown gives you 2 chi, as well as generates 75 energy over 5 seconds. So it works out to 15 energy per second. And a lot of people just find that to be very difficult to manage in the way that it does it, because you both are generating more. In many cases, you're generating more than you can use, and the fact that it starts you off with 2 chi just makes it more difficult to dump chi. The easiest way and the place that has the most use is going to be in a place like Mythic Plus, where you're going to be dumping a lot more chi through Spinning Crane Kick a lot faster. And Energizing Elixir is very useful for that, because you can simply pop Energizing Elixir, Spinning Crane Kick to use that 2 chi, Tiger Palm, Spinning Crane Kick, Tiger Palm, Spinning, and so on and so forth, using all your other abilities as needed to do that. So that's where Energizing Elixir is going to be the most useful. But generally, most people are going to use Fist of the White Tiger for its ease of use. So again, to look at them all, generally default for most people is going to be Fist of the White Tiger. Energizing Elixir does provide the most resources, but is generally the most difficult to use. So that's something that you can use if you prefer. And Ascension is one that, similar to Eye of the Tiger, if you simply want one less thing to worry about, or if you feel like you have a hard time managing your resources, Ascension gives you a little bit of an extra cushion in regards to using it. One of the last things is that Ascension it also tends to be the most useful if you're in a situation, you're on a fight where you are energy capped a lot, whether it's due to mechanics having to run out, intermission phases and stuff for fights. But that's where Ascension really picks up the slack, because you're starting with 20, an extra 20 energy. You can pool an extra 1 chi. So that's where Ascension can become most useful. So really, this tier, similar to the first tier up here, is largely personal preference, but you'll find most people do prefer to use Fists of the White Tiger. Looking at the next tier, this is our control tier. Start off with Tiger Tail Sweep, and basically what that does is increases the range of your leg sweep from 6 yards to 8 yards, and reduces its cooldown by 30 seconds, so it goes from 1 minute to a 50-second cooldown. This is going to be one that you're going to use the least for the most part, mostly just because the other 2 options are very useful. Tiger Tail Sweep would certainly be the most useful in PvP, but as I'll talk about, Ring of Peace is just so much more useful in those situations that you're going to use it like that. Good Karma is the defensive talent in this row. It doesn't quite fit with the other 2, but we've got it. What it does is it just increases it doesn't increase, but when Touch of Karma deals any damage, So when somebody attacks you and you have touch of karma up, it redirects that damage to them. So when it redirects that damage, it also heals you. So what it does is it basically can provide a 35% heal to you if you get the maximum use out of good karma. So in situations where you don't need one of the other options, good karma is going to be the one that you're going to want to go with just for a little bit extra peace of mind and control. Ring of Peace, though, is generally going to be your default for Mythic Plus and certainly for PvP. And what it does, Ring of Peace, is it puts a circle on the ground, and any enemy that's inside will get bounced out. So what it does is it allows you to interrupt any casts. It allows you to just kind of push back and knock around any targets, and just makes it very easy to control mobs or enemies that way. So Ring of Peace in raids is not going to be quite as useful. You're not going to be knocking around a raid boss. However, if it's a fight that has ads, or for example, to use one right now, Sun King, during its intermission when you're dealing with the Shade and you have the Phoenixes coming at you, you can use Ring of Peace to keep them at bay. It's also very useful when you're out doing world quests and stuff like that, to maybe give yourself a little bit more time to get away, heal yourself up, just give yourself a little bit of a respite. So again, looking at these, Ring of Peace is generally going to be your default for Mythic Plus and PvP. And some raid fights where you might have to control some ads. Good Karma is going to be your default for defensive use, or if you don't need Ring of Peace, you're going to use Good Karma. Tiger Tail Sweep is generally not going to be very useful in most situations. All right, so looking at our level 40 tier, this is our defensive tier. Starting off on the left, we have Inner Strength. Anytime you use Chi, you reduce your damage taken by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. So basically how it works is if you generate some Chi, right, you use Rising Sun Kick, you have 2 stacks. Rising Sun Kick uses 2 Chi, so it generates 2 stacks, so that reduces your damage by 4%. So what you'll find is if I use Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury, I now have a 5-second buff that reduces my damage taken by 10%. This can be very useful. It certainly loses use if you have a lot of downtime or if you're not kind of constantly using your Chi. However, it's a good, solid, just kind of passive, more in the background talent for a slight defensive increase over time. It's not something that's going to wow you or save your life, but it's going to be a small increase over time if you don't need the other 2 options. Diffuse Magic, you'll find most people default to using Diffuse Magic. Diffuse Magic has a 1.5 minute cooldown, and for 6 seconds it reduces the magic damage you take by 60%. It does work strictly on magic damage, which is different from Dampen Harm. Something else that's useful, mostly useful in PvP, lesser so in PvE situations, is that it transfers any active harmful magic effects on you back to their caster. There are very few times in PvE where it will actually transfer that back, but in PvE it will most often function as a magic dispel for you. It will remove any magic debuffs that you have instantly. In PvP it will remove them, but also put them back on your other targets, or on whoever cast them, which is where it can be very useful in PvP and playing against other players. Again, it's going to be most people's default. There tends to be a lot of magic damage in the game, both in PvP and PvE, so it's a reasonable default if you choose to go that way. Dampen Harm has a slightly longer cooldown in that it's got a 2-minute cooldown, and it reduces all damage you take by 20 to 50% for 10 seconds. So even though it has a slightly longer cooldown, it also has a longer defensive benefit, a longer duration. And basically, it's from 20% to 50%. The bigger the hit, the more it reduces. There's not any kind of rule of thumb of, okay, it hits for this amount, it'll hit, it'll protect you for this amount. But generally, if it's something that's big, it's gonna, if it's gonna deal 50% of your damage, it probably is going to reduce that by closer to 50%. Whereas if it's something that's small, a very small ticking dot or something like that, it may only reduce it by 20%. The benefit of Dampen Harm is that it works for physical damage. So if you're in a fight where that has big physical damages, big hits with physical damage, then you're going to want to use Dampen Harm, similar to a fight like Currently, Sludge Fist, when he charges at his pillar, it does a big hit of physical damage. That's where Dampen Harm is going to come in addition to the fact that it can be used on every other of the pillar that he charges, just due to the fact that he charges every minute and it has a 2-minute cooldown. So again, Diffuse Magic is generally going to be your default for most situations. If you do feel that you need to protect yourself from physical damage, then Dampen Harm is going to be your way to go. And then you're going to have Inner Strength as one where there's maybe no big hits, but you just kind of want to provide yourself a little bit extra survivability as you go through the fights. All right, so next, our second to last tier, our level 45 tier, we start off with Hit Combo. These are all damage-focused talents. We start off with Hit Combo. Any attack that triggers your Mastery, your Combo Strikes Mastery, grants a 1% increased damage, stacking up to 6 times. So if I take Hit Combo, as long as you don't repeat, it will stack up. So you see this in the middle tracks it for me. My weak aura here tracks it. So I'm at 6. As long as I don't repeat, it stacks up. If I do repeat, if I use Blackout Kick back to back, I lose all my stacks. It also has a duration. As you can see, it's got a 10-second duration up here in the top left. So Hit Combo is technically going to be the strongest talent for single target, but it's a lot of people don't take it because it's relatively boring. In that it's slightly more reward for what you're going to be doing anyway. But when you mess up your mastery, beyond losing your mastery, you also then lose your hit combo, and you have to build it back up. So a lot of people, myself included, find it to be more of a punishment for mistakes rather than a reward for positive play. But again, Hit Combo is a strong talent and one that's useful. Next, we have Rushing Jadewind. Rushing Jadewind is one that you're really never going to use outside of running old content. Rushing Jadewind has a 6-second cooldown reduced by haste, and costs 1 chi and deals damage around you in a circle. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong button. Remember where I put it on my bars? Nope, that's not where I put it on my bars. So let's back up. So I don't even have it on my bars, which is how infrequently I use it, if that makes sense. But yeah, so basically, the way that it works is you press it, it summons a tornado around you, and deals damage to any targets in your range. So I'll show you in a sec once he despawns and I'm out of combat. All right, so wrong button. Okay, well, it's down here. Right, so if I deal damage, cast Rushing Jadewind, you see it's a very pretty model of stuff moving around. It does benefit from mastery, but it does cost 1 chi, and really it deals primarily AoE damage and just not enough that you're going to take it in any reasonable situation. So after that, with Rushing Jadewind, where you're really not going to use it, we have Dance of Chi-Ji, and Dance of Chi-Ji had been an Azerite trait in Battle for Azeroth and is now a passive talent that Windwalkers have access to. What it does is it provides a chance similar to your free Blackout Kick. It provides a chance anytime you spend chi to get a free spinning crane kick. So I'll see if I can generate one while we're standing here and talking about it. But the way that it works is it's just a free spinning crane kick, and in addition to dealing damage, or in addition to being free, it also deals 200% increased damage. So the big benefit for this is that it just deals a lot of damage. It also allows you to continue your mastery and stuff like that, and working through it like that. So a lot of people really like this talent, myself included. I generally use it as a default for a lot of situations, and of course, as I'm doing it right now, it's not going to proc. But I use it for a lot of situations. I'm just throwing away my mastery to try and get a proc to show you. But so here you go. This is my weak aura for that. Press it. It's free, and it deals a lot of damage. It also is then multiplied by Mark of the Crane, which I explained in the previous video talking about the spellbook, and I'll talk more in a video about the priority for AoE and for single target situations. But Dance of Chi-Ji, basically, when you get a proc, when you have the opportunity to use a free spinning crane kick, you use it. It's a decent chunk of damage, especially with the calculated All right, my mic just turned off for some reason. But yeah, so it increases the damage even further, and is something that a lot of people just find works very well in the uh, fight. In the rotation, just kind of fits very nicely. Again, it will theoretically provide slightly less damage than hit combo and single target, but they're close enough that if you prefer Dance of Chi-Ji, you can use Dance of Chi-Ji, and you'll find that a lot of people do prefer Dance of Chi-Ji over hit combo. A lot of us are very tired of using hit combo. So again, if you want to just use a default, Dance of Chi-Ji is a good default. Rushing Jadewind you're never going to use unless you're running old content and you just want to be able to pop on the tornado around you and just run through a bunch of targets and kill them all quickly. Hit combo can be used in single target or an AoE if you so choose, but generally just ends up being more of a punishment for misplays rather than a reward for positive ones. So getting into our last row of talents, this is our level 50 talents, again, very focused on damage. First, we have spiritual focus. Anytime that you spend 2 chi, reduce the cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire by 1 second. It's pretty straightforward. You cast a Rising Sun Kick, that reduces the cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire by 1 second. You cast 2 Blackout Kicks, that reduces the cooldown by 1 second. It does work as a pair every 2. So Fist of Fury is not going to reduce it by 1.5 seconds. But a Fist of Fury plus a Blackout Kick will reduce it by 2 seconds. Generally, you're not going to use this. It's just not very useful. It's been here for a while, all through Battle of Azeroth, and nobody used it. It's just not useful. Whirling Dragon Punch is going to be your default in most situations. A lot of people enjoy this talent very much, and there was a big push for it being baseline going into this expansion. But it wasn't made baseline, so fingers crossed for next expansion, I guess. But what it does is Whirling Dragon Punch provides an additional button for you to hit that you can only use when Fists of Fury and Rising Sun Kick are on cooldown. So you see right now, they're both on cooldown, and that is Whirling Dragon Punch. Tosses you up in the air, as well as deals damage. And I'll try and get some cooldowns back, so that I can show you again. Not paying a ton of attention to Mastery. Basically, Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury. My Whirling Dragon Punch is available, so I can use that as Whirling Dragon Punch. Whirling Dragon Punch is a reasonably hard-hitting ability, so when it's available, you're going to want to use it. It does AoE damage around you, and it is not currently capped, so it is kind of our highest maximum one-hit boom AoE talent in that regard. So Whirling Dragon Punch is going to be your default for most situations. Largely because it keeps you having access to Storm, Earth, and Fire, which is a very flexible cooldown to use due to its 2 charges and variety of ways that you can use it. Serenity is the next thing that we have available to us, the last talent in this row. And Serenity is one that people have been really wanting to be good, but unfortunately it just hasn't been one worth thinking about. What it does is for 12 seconds after you use it on a 90-second cooldown, you deal 20% increased damage and healing, and all of your chi consumers are free. As well as they have their cooldowns reduced 100% more quickly. So basically, while you're in Serenity, any 1 second spent on cooldown counts for 2 seconds. Functionally, this means that abilities have half the cooldown that they do, but that's not quite the way that it works, because when Serenity comes off, their cooldowns go back. So you can think of it more as every 1 second inside Serenity is 2 seconds of things on cooldown. But again, it's not one that has proven to be useful since Legion, and is one that people have been wanting to play. A lot of people like the idea of it, but unfortunately it just hasn't been strong enough to do so. So really, you're going to use Whirling Dragon Punch for all situations. You're just going to get used to using it. So that covers all of the talents. To just kind of give a brief overview, largely for single target situations, you're going to be using Chi Wave, Tiger's Lust, Fist of the White Tiger, Good Karma. Any of these, really don't matter. Dance of Chi-Ji is slightly behind hit combo, but good enough that you'll use it. And then Whirling Dragon Punch. So for single target, Chi Wave, Tiger's Lust, Fist of the White Tiger, Good Karma, Diffuse Magic, Dance of Chi-Ji, and Whirling Dragon Punch. Then for AoE, you're going to use Chi Burst, Again, Fists of the White Tiger is a reasonable default, something like Good Karma, Diffuse Magic, Dance of Chi-Ji, and Whirling Dragon Punch. So you'll see that really, when it comes to changing talents, there's not much difference. It really comes down to this first row, and the difference between them is very small. If you find you don't like Chi Burst, or if you find you really like Chi Burst, then you can use it in single target, and it's really not going to affect your damage that much. The first row is largely personal preference. The second row is largely personal preference. The third row is largely personal preference. The fourth row is largely situational. Again, fifth row, situational. Sixth row, you technically can choose between Hit Combo and Dance of Chi-Ji. And last row, you're going to use Whirling Dragon Punch all the time. So Windwalker don't have a ton of variability in its talents, but that's just kind of the way that it goes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and functional for you. Check out my other videos on my YouTube channel and my other guides and stuff that I put out. I am working on putting out other ones. You can check out peakofserenity.com and the Peak of Serenity Monk Discord for more information about monks and to chat with other people in the community. If you want to watch me stream or check me out on Twitter, the links are on screen right now as well as will be in the description. And lastly, if you like this content, make sure you subscribe, give this channel a like and stuff like that. So if you have other ideas that you'd like me to do, let me know in the comments, all that stuff. If you want to support my channel and support the work that I do on Peak and Discord and game stuff like that, then you can check out the links to Patreon and PayPal below. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a good night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are.